welcome back. Grab a snack, something to drink, and let's hang out for a bit. Today, I want to talk about a slightly different question. How do I make my characters feel alive? If you've ever looked at a drawing and thought something's missing, or it looks cool but I don't feel anything from it, you're not alone. That used to happen to me a lot and many other artists. In this video, I'll walk you through how I give my characters emotion and depth, and that weird intangible thing that makes them feel real. We'll go through my process, I'll show you the drawing I'm working on right now, and share some small tips that make a big difference. Whether you write, draw, or you're literally just daydreaming your characters into existence, I really hope this helps you. So let's start with the emotional anchor. What makes someone feel real? It's not always the details like clothes or hair, although those matter, it's often the emotional anchor behind the design. For this character, I knew I wanted her to feel tired but determined. Someone who's seen a lot but hasn't given up. So before I even sketched her out, I asked myself questions like, what does she care about? What is she carrying? Not just in her bag, but emotionally. Who's waiting for her? Or is anyone waiting for her at all? Even if I don't answer these questions, I let them guide the choices that I'm making, such as her posture, her expression, the setting that she's in. I tried to let the emotion lead before the aesthetic, because you can add details forever, but if the core feeling is missing, it won't hit. Let me show you how this design came to life in the drawing that I'm working on right now. This is Normani, a witch obsessed with forbidden arcane power. She's graceful, menacing, and brilliant in ways that scare even other witches. Her goal? To steal kitsune magic and use it under the full moon's glow, which amplifies her power but also makes her a little bit vulnerable. I wanted all of that to come through without saying it outright. So the twin crescent moons on her forehead, on her chest, they aren't just decorative. They are representations of the stolen kitsune magic she has bound to her will. The glow kind of hints at the power of the moonlight, like her eyes are bright, also unnatural. That was a deliberate choice to show she's not quite human anymore. She's tampered with something ancient and wrong, and now it lives inside her. That glow shouldn't feel comforting. Her horns are the magical scars on her skin. The tattered edges of her robes all tell parts of her story. Power is gained at a cost. Elegance turned dangerous. I wanted her to have a tall, rigid posture, one hand always near her spellbook, like she's never fully relaxed. She doesn't trust the world, and the world has a reason not to trust her. The goal was to make you feel that she's powerful, but something about her is just off. That's how you design through story. Every detail is a little breadcrumb. It's not just a character, it's a conversation. I personally love adding little story hints into the piece that the viewer can imagine for themselves. You don't need to answer every question that you're asking. Sometimes the best part is leaving space for curiosity. So I think about things like, if she was holding a bag, what would be in it? If she was holding a photo, why is that? Is her name scratched into a wall that's behind her in the image? These tiny details, they become emotional hooks that get people to stop scrolling and look a little bit closer. They leave space open for the viewer's imagination to take over. That's one of the best things you can do, not just show your world, but invite somebody into it. When I sat down to draw this, I started with a mood board, a few Pinterest photos, environmental pictures, textures, lighting, anything like that I like, and particularly I always pay attention to a character's pose. For me, the pose is one of the most important things. If you're trying to convey a confident character, you don't want them hunched. You don't want them crossing their arms, protecting themselves. You want them to seem powerful. So for me, I pay a lot of attention to the direction that the eyes are, where the head is laid. Are they looking down on the viewer or are they looking up at the viewer? Little details like that. I usually do a couple of rough thumbnails, but generally my first sketch is usually the one that I go with. I'm still using the same brushes that I always use. Some of them are a mixture of brushes that I've downloaded myself, but a lot of the brushes I use are personal brushes that I've experimented with in the brush engine. Now, some of those are available in the description below if you'd like to see maybe a tutorial on how to use the brush engine. I can maybe work on that as well if you guys are interested in it. I like that the brushes have a little bit of texture, but I do like to keep my line art on a separate layer. I generally recolor my line art after I finish the base colors. I like when the line art kind of blends into the drawing. My color palette choices with this are kind of intentional. Normani is a character that I've created in the world of Etheria. I'm pretty sure I have another video more in-depthly discussing her backstory and the decisions that I made when creating her. As you can see, I'm using the image that I drew previously as my reference image for colour picking her colours now. And when you look at colours, I could do a whole other video on this as well. Colours are so important symbolically. When you look at the colour red, you think of danger. When you look at the colour yellow, you think of spring, flowers, or maybe you don't, but in general, that's always what I've associated those colours with. And in particular with purple, I personally associate purple with royalty. It's a higher class colour, and I attached it to Normani because she sees herself as better than everybody else. So for me, it was a symbolic choice to have the colour palette turn out this way. Her magic is green. Green is the colour of envy. Green envy representing her jealousy and disdain for the kitsunes. So she stole that magic for herself. It is green. For me, that was a very purposeful choice. You don't have to be purposeful when you're doing your colours. It's also okay to think, wow, I really like the colour blue, let me give her blue hair. That is also okay. Not every decision has to be intentional. And that's okay as well. But for me personally, in this drawing, those decisions were intentional. For me personally, lighting is one of my favourite things to draw. It comes up so much in my art. I can put a few examples in. I love a dark art piece with a good glowy element. For me, I knew it was going to be her eyes and her moons, that they were going to glow. I knew she probably wasn't going to have magic in it, but I still wanted to allude to it. And I love a really good intense light. Now, this is kind of what sets the mood for your drawing. It can be maybe a green exit light that's reflecting on your character. Maybe it's glowing mushrooms. You don't have to decide that until maybe halfway through your drawing. Here, that what you're looking at right now, I am simply just rendering her. I'm not paying too much attention to the lights and shadows. I just want her to look coloured in with no lighting on her. I typically add my lighting after I do my flat colours. It probably would be a better idea to lock down your lighting before you start this process. But for me, lesson learned, I'm probably, honestly, don't do my mistakes. You should probably lock down your lighting in your sketching phase. But still, the contrast for me ended up giving this character the kind of ethereal vibe that I was going for. I generally also add some sort of second light bouncing off different parts of the drawing. I think it adds atmosphere. It separates the background without needing maybe harsh lighting. Sometimes I'll add even more lighting. Generally it's 2. So for me, those 2 lightings were green magic coming from below her and the eyes and moons. Now, the eyes and moons maybe reflect off her hair and stuff in the immediate vicinity, maybe her eyelashes. The green light more reflects on the whole drawing. And I'm keeping in mind as well, if there is light on her skin, that's probably going to bounce onto another section of her dress. So for me, this is kind of what really builds the atmosphere and emotion that you're trying to sell in your drawing. So it's something that I personally pay a lot of attention to. I also try not to over-design, just 2 or 3 things that stand out per character. Kitsunes have flowing hair, maybe they have ears. The witches have some sort of body modification as a result of the magic they manipulate. There are small little consistencies that help them feel like they belong together. It's not just about identical outfits, it's about a visual rhythm. Something that makes you go, oh yeah, I know this world. These characters, they breathe the same air. Let's pause for a second. You can draw along, or you can just think about this while we talk. Here are a few questions I always come back to when I feel stuck or I want to deepen a character's emotional core. What does your character regret? And would they admit it out loud? Regret reveals where they've been hurt, where they failed, or who they once were. Some characters bury their regrets, whereas others wear them on their sleeve. What object would they never throw away and why? Maybe it's something small like a broken ring or a journal. Think about what it means to them, who gave it to them, why it still matters. What's something they'll never admit, even to themselves? Maybe they still crave approval. Maybe they want revenge. Maybe they're tired of becoming someone they hate. You don't have to write all of it down, just keep it in mind as you draw. If you want to go even deeper, ask these. What lies does your character believe, and what would happen if they found out the truth? What do they wish someone would say to them, but no one ever has? And what would break them, not physically, but emotionally? Let these answers seep into the design of the character. Not everything has to be visible, but if you know it, the viewer will feel it. You can pause here if you want to sketch something out, or just jot down a few answers. Even one strong answer can unlock the whole vibe of your piece. If you feel like sharing, drop a comment with your answers, or better yet, tag me in your drawings. I love seeing how people explore these ideas in their own characters. Every character has their own soul, it's just waiting to be found. I want to take a quick second to talk about some of the tools that I always come back to when I'm designing characters. These aren't just time savers, they're idea savers. They help when I'm stuck, when I'm bored, or when I need to push a design that little bit further. Procreate's brush engine is one of my favourite features in Procreate. I've made custom brushes for everything from textures to sketching lines. What I love most is that you can tweak literally everything about the brush. Pressure curve, spacing, scatter, tilt, all of it. Sometimes I'll take one of the default brushes and just mess with it until it feels right for the piece that I'm doing. If I want something more chaotic, I'll add texture. If I want something soft and moody, I'll adjust the opacity taper. It's like giving your hand a different voice, especially for character design. Switching brushes can unlock a completely different tone. Harsher lines for tension, softer lines for vulnerability. Pexels and Unsplash are also lifesavers. They're both free stock photo sites, they have apps as well, and the quality is amazing. I use them to build quick references for lighting, environments, characters, fashion, even emotional expressions. Let's say I'm drawing a character standing in the rain and I'll just search rain portrait or night street pavement and just collect a few images that give me the vibe that I want. I don't copy them directly, it's more about borrowing the atmosphere. These sites are also great for finding unconventional inspiration, maybe like architecture or underwater lighting. It's not always about realism, it's about the reference that sparks something in you. Colours is the colour palette site that I use when I want to try something new or break out of my comfort zone. You can generate palettes randomly, you can look up trending palettes, you can lock a colour and then change the colours around it. It's amazing when you know the emotional tone that you want but not the exact colours. For example, if I want a palette that feels ghostly but regal, I'll find a desaturated purple and see what tones it suggests around it. You can also upload a photo and pull a palette from that. However, I usually just use the Procreate colour engine to do that. It is perfect if you're using a picture from like Pexels or Unsplash and you want your art to match that kind of mood without directly colour picking the colours. All these tools, brush settings, reference libraries, palette generators, they're not cheating. They're part of the creative process. They help me understand and ask better questions. What textures feel right for my character's story? What kind of lighting would they stand in? What colours feel like the mood that they have? I try to use these tools to support my storytelling, not replace it. You still have to make decisions, but it's so much easier when you've got good inputs around you. Here's a few small takeaways that I've learned over time. Mood is more important than polish. Don't worry about the backstory being perfect, just make it feel true. Reuse design elements across characters to keep your world cohesive. If you're stuck, ask what emotion do I want people to feel when they look at this art. If the vibe feels flat, try changing the lighting before you change the character. Take breaks, our brains need breathing room. So, how do you make a character feel alive? You give them weight, not just through shadows and colour, but through thought, through care and storytelling. I hope this video gave you something to think about, or at least something to try. If it did, let me know in the comments and tell me about your characters. Thank you for spending time with me today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my drawings and sketches, and if you're interested in a commission, I also have my Etsy linked below. See you next week. Bye.